All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Julia, and I'll be moderating this session. Very excited to introduce three really wonderful people who are going to be talking about two vernal pool topics and one very cool citizen science topic. So we're going to start with the citizen scientist. Her name is Marcia Basalla. She lives in Novato, and she spent the last 15 years restoring urban spaces in her spare time while working a full-time job. So that's pretty impressive. So Marcia, you can come up and take it away.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming. Ever since I can remember, I have loved being out in nature. I grew up in northeastern Ohio, and my childhood days were spent exploring the remaining open spaces, looking for wild animals and observing insects in the fields behind our house. Moving to Marin County in California was quite a change. The plants, weather, and even the smell of the air was so different from my hometown. But as gardeners usually do, I adapted and came to appreciate Marin's beautiful and unique environment. Vegetable gardening was my focus until 2002, when I began my study of horticulture at Oakland's Merritt College. A class in California native plants was a revelation, and I was smitten. It just made so much sense to cultivate plants compatible with our climate, providing habitat for wildlife, building healthy soil, and conserving water, all without pesticides or fertilizers. Ultimately, I received a certificate in landscape design and construction. In the 15 years since then, I have focused on creating native plant habitats in residential areas. Today, I will be telling you about the establishment and maintenance of native habitats on traffic islands in a residential area in Marin County. I will focus not only on the thinking that went into this habitat design, but also the skills I needed to work productively with local residents and city managers. First, why is it important to introduce wildlife to urban and suburban areas? As you know, constructing new roads, housing, and commercial buildings on open land usually has an adverse effect on the resident wildlife, often leaving them without adequate food or shelter. One solution to this problem is to create small native habitats in home gardens and public spaces, including traffic medians, schoolyards, and office entryways. These small habits or way stations link together to form corridors that allow animals to move safely through urban and suburban landscapes. This strategy does not imply that preserving large tracts of open space is unimportant. Rather, the two strategies complement each other. In this slide, you can see an image of a school garden, one of many that have sprung up in the county. The image shows a native plant garden in a town park in Corte Madera. Here are some examples of other native plant habitats in urban or suburban areas of Marin. The one on the left is a garden planted in front of the police station, and the other is in front of a public library. Novato is located 30 miles north of San Francisco in Marin County, set within a large expanse of open space. It is a growing city of approximately 55,000 people. Novato is situated inland, roughly 25 miles from the Pacific coast, and residents experience hot summers with little rain. For most of the year, the weather is temperate with significant rainfall in the winter. In 1990, the city of Novato established the Adopt an Island program to encourage individuals and businesses to adopt a median island in order to create a cleaner, more beautiful Novato, while also establishing habitats for pollinators. This program seemed like a great opportunity to make use of my knowledge of landscape design to construct a native plant way station in my home city. So in 2009, I applied for and received permission to adopt an island. The island, pictured here from two angles, is a traffic median in southern Novato, With a total area of 560 feet, the longest edge is 265 feet, and it measures 32 feet across at its widest point. It is located on a 1-mile road connecting a major highway with a small residential area. My adopted site was one of 7 islands distributed along this road. As you can see in these images taken during an early phase of the island's creation, the surrounding area is hilly and features open grassland dotted with coast live oak, California buckeyes, and bay trees. Here's a picture of the island before my work began. As you can see, there was a lot of room for improvement, and the next step was forming a planting plan. The image on your left shows the type of landscaping that can be found on the 6 islands that I do not have responsibility for. Adopted by a group of residents from the neighboring community, these islands were planted with such conventional staples as oleander, society garlic, and ice plant. In contrast to this conventional approach, my plan was to create a native plant habitat that would achieve 3 major goals: provide cover, nesting, and food source for insects, birds, and other small animals, especially pollinators. Protect the local wildlife watershed by using plants with large root systems and trees with large canopies. Create seasonal planting for year-round appeal. I developed a planting plan consisting of 95% California native plants appropriate for the climate and condition of the area. The plant palette included a variety of trees, shrubs, and perennials with an emphasis on seasonal color. The city paid for the initial planting material and a few supplemental plants. City employees helped me to prepare the site and do some initial planting. I took it from there in terms of maintaining the site. The city was responsible for irrigation and for an annual evaluation for fire safety. Initially, the site looked a bit sparse as the plants were small, but I knew their dimensions and could visualize how they would eventually fill in. Over the subsequent years, I experimented with a wide variety of plants to find those most successful in creating a dynamic, biodiverse habitat. Many plants naturalized throughout the island, finding places and plants that provided supportive conditions. I agree with something a friend of mine said recently: the order of nature is all the order we need. And here are some examples of plants that were successful on this island. 2 types of trees, a coast live oak and western elderberry. And here are a few shrubs that have done well on the island. Everyone knows this one, the coyote brush, purple sage, and hummingbird sage. And some other perennials, which were flowering, coast buckwheat, and one of my favorites, Verbena lilacina. I was also careful to include 2 species of native milkweed, Asclepias speciosa, or showy milkweed, and Asclepias fascicularis, or narrow leaf milkweed. Milkweed is essential to restoring monarch habitat as this plant provides the sole source of sustenance and consumed by monarch larvae. And here are some of the critters that have appeared on the island. As soon as the plants were established, I began documenting the arrival of a wide variety of animals on the island, including the insects, birds, and reptiles you see here. One of the most exciting effects of creating the site was the appearance of western monarch butterflies in July of 2020. Monarchs returned to my sites in the following 2 years. Waves of them moved through into September, laying hundreds of eggs. Residents in the nearby community, as well as local environmentalists, were very excited to see the return of the monarch to this area. Eventually, having fulfilled the city's requirements for site maintenance of the original island, I was able to adopt a second island and an adjacent slope to expand this habitat. Following the appearance of monarchs on my adopted island, Marin County Parks and the Ignacio Rotary Club planted an area of milkweed and California natives in a large meadow adjacent to the median. You can see the initial planting in this slide, along with a sign indicating that the island, slope, and meadow are now part of a habitat restoration area for monarch butterflies. In an exciting new development, I just heard that a local organization has committed additional funds to expand this habitat. In addition, I have been in touch with a biology professor at the University of San Francisco who recently conducted a biodiversity survey of the plants on 3 sites: the large island I maintain, the new meadow, and an island with conventional planting. The analysis is still in progress, but she recently sent me her preliminary impressions, writing, "We saw so much wildlife on your restored median. It was really amazing. We didn't see as much at the pollinator garden and next to nothing at the small median with the neat little flowers." Overall, the community response to my sites has been positive. Many residents have expressed interest and enjoyment of the wildlife now flourishing in their neighborhood and have reported enjoying the seasonal changes in the planting. I facilitate this education process by working on the habitat every weekend, often stopping work to talk with residents and tell them about the plants and animals. However, there is also a group of politically influential residents in the neighboring community who adopted the other 6 islands and planted them with conventional plants such as the oleander you saw in an earlier slide, plants of little value to pollinators or other wild creatures. This group critiqued my native plant habitat for lacking sufficient aesthetic appeal and claimed inaccurately that these plants were pyrophytic. They persisted in this latter claim, even though my sites had been successfully approved by the Novato Fire District. When they brought these concerns to the city, I responded to the residents and to the city. I also reached out to local environmental groups for support. The resulting controversy played out locally over many months. Many letters on both sides of the issue appeared in the local newspaper, and there was a largely positive news story about the matter on a local television channel. In the early spring of this year, the residents opposing native plant habitats were allowed by the city to replace some of the native plants on the second of my islands and the adjacent slope. I was allowed to retain full control over the original larger island. The group's initial plantings of candy tuft and lantana on the smaller island have already been consumed by deer, and they are back to square one in terms of a planting plan. Caring for this space for the past 15 years has brought home to me the value of creating native habitats, even in relatively small spaces. I have learned the importance of being a steward of the land and the animals that inhabit it. I have gained an appreciation for the intricacy and wisdom of nature and appreciate my opportunity to help these processes unfold. I have also learned important lessons about connecting with community members and residents to help them understand the need for habitat restoration. Of primary importance is fostering an ongoing conversation among community members about the aesthetic and practical benefits of native plant habitats. My experiences have taught me that municipalities like Novato should develop a realistic approach for supporting residents who plan and maintain these sites. They must also devote resources to educating residents about the value of restoring native habitats, and they should be prepared to mediate among residents with varying opinions about the aesthetics and practical aspects of the project. In short, this experience has shown me that with sufficient support from local government, establishing public spaces with native plants can inform and inspire residents and as well as restore native habitats. Thank you.